Greetings and welcome to another Commodore 64 video. This time I'm going to be having a look at some Horizon Chase driving games, as the poor old 64 quite often gets accused of not being able to manage to do them, and this isn't true at all. So I think I've found 10 that fit within that genre that I think are pretty good. But obviously need to have a very brief look at the worst we've had on offer. So in the middle you've got Chase HQ, at the top you've got Super Hang-On, and at the bottom you've got Wet Le Mans. Absolutely unfinished looking travesties of games. Those are the worst that the 64 had on offer. So I think it's high time that we have a look at some that are pretty good. We're going to start off here back in 1985 with Richard Petty's Talladega, which came from Cosme. Now this isn't the best looking or best sounding game that you're ever going to see, but this one is such fun to play. I had this back in the early days of owning the 64. It was on a C90 tape that a friend gave me when I bought his Commodore 64. So perhaps for me it's the nostalgia, but this was a great fun game to play. Like I said, it's a bit rough around the edges, but it's fairly rapid and offers a challenge. So first of all you've got to do the qualifying, then you've got to do a race. One down point of this game is one hit, you blow up, it's game over. So practice is key. And all the games I'm showing, any that have got pits or anything like that, all I'm really concentrating on is the ability to be able to race rather than game reviews and showing all the different features. So now we enter the race proper, and of course Richard Petty would be in first place. If you use the turbo boost on this, it's great for catching up, but sometimes if you're not careful you slam straight into the back of another motor, and as I said, one hit, it's game over. Now, I managed to get into first place there, just. Definitely not the best looking game, but fun all the same. Yeah, that's not gone well. And up next we have got Super Monaco Grand Prix, which came out in 1991 from US Gold. And it's a conversion of a Sega arcade game, I believe. Definitely a Sega game somewhere along the line. It's another game where you have to qualify before you do the race. When you consider in this one, not only have you got a Horizon track to drive around, you've also got the mirror as well, which is doing the same reverse, and they are both really smooth and fast moving. Obviously it's not Formula 1 Grand Prix that was on the Amiga and the PC, but to be fair to it, running this smoothly on an 8-bit computer, and it's not hideous to look at either, I find this one quite impressive. As usual, I'm not very good at it. Seem to quite like them posts a lot. So we'll complete the qualifying lap, and I'll show you a bit of the race, because that way you can see what the other cars look like. Right, so we're at the race, starting in 7th position. You can see the other cars are quite big sprites, and they move along nicely. I seem to remember playing this game back when it came out. It was quite novel to have the mirror on an 8-bit game. That's a few cars gone past me now, so moving on. Right, now this one might turn out to be a surprise for some, because this game on the Commodore 64 is considered awful, and it is a fairly ugly game. You'll get no argument from me on that. But what this had that a lot of the other versions didn't have, and I'm including the ST and Amiga in this, is it actually had some speed to it. And what I've gone for here is the American version that come out in 1988 from Mindscape. Now this one was on disc, so it had a few extra features, and a lot of the awful loading was completely removed. So just showing off the radio sounds here. Obviously you can have splash wave sound effects or magical sound shower, which is the one I'm going to go for. The difference between this one and the European release was, for a start, because it was disc based, you had things extra like clouds in the background. The graphics on the car was slightly tidied up, and I think it's a fairly good version. Jason Brooks' music's good anyway, if nothing else, but it has got the speed that a lot of other versions lacked. Unless you're playing this on a souped up Amiga 1200, the Amiga version of this was so slow and so jerky. At least this one's fairly smooth. But I'm not going to argue that the looks ain't all that. In fact, I believe in a minute we'll be entering a place that looks like it's had a nuclear reactor go off in its back garden. Look at that. But even with the things over the road, that is still going along at a fair old lick. I thought I'd best put a brown level in for David. Oops. Yeah, nowhere near as rubbish as people make out. Now this next one, 4x4 off-road racing, which came out from Epix in 1988, it's a Horizon Chase game, but it's a fairly long-winded game. So in this one, there's lots of things to select, and you can choose a car. I've just gone for the basic one, and then you go to the shops to buy, well, in this case, custom car parts. And then you go into the Auto Mart where you buy like oil and maps and spare tyres and stuff like that. I don't need to go to truck sales because I've already done that. And here we go. I don't know why it is, but Epix racing games, and there is a few of them, always seem to be so smooth. I know I'm going to get comments about the graphics being brown and what have you, but that's only the background of the road. And dirt roads do tend to be brown, so what do you want me to say? But nice and smooth. It's got some silly aspects. Yeah, and occasionally you're going to need to refuel the car. And I don't think I've shown it in the video, but you do see the occasional road split. Look at your map, and then you carry on. 14th position, but it does take a lot and a long time to get all the way up to first. A good fun game, but closer to a simulation, even with the silly jumping about. Talking of epics, this is Supercycle that come out in 1986 from them, and this is quite possibly the fastest, I'd say the fastest Horizon chaser that come out on the 64, and it makes you wish that perhaps Epics could have had a go at the Sega Scalar games like Super Hang-On and Outrun. And this one you get to, again, choose a few different bits and pieces that you like and begin the race. Quite a twitchy game, this one. Manual gears. But as you'll see, once you start creeping the speed up, this really does go along, and it's very, very twitchy on the controls as well. Although it is a fun game, later on in the game you get obstacles, holes in the road, cones and that, and items to pick up. But I was completely blown away when I first saw this, just at how smooth and how fast it runs. Yeah, that's not how to go around a corner. I will admit that the sound effects ain't the best in this. The tyre squealing sound is very irritating. Yeah, like that. Even though there's not a lot of trackside objects, they do scale really nicely, and they haven't got the most awful draw distance. This will be level 3. And again, looking at the what looks like palm trees at the side of the road, how much better would Outrun have been if it had someone like the team that did this behind it? Right, next up from 1991 we've got Turbocharge from System 3. Now this was one of the first games that I ever saw, well, especially on an 8-bit machine, that had kind of a cutscene movie type opening to it. So I'm going to let that play for a sec. Brilliant music there. I think that's Sean Connolly. And again, another fairly smooth game. Perhaps not as smooth or as fast as Supercycle, But there's a lot more going on. And I think the graphics of all the vehicles are pretty good as well. You know, they're not all the same colour, which happens in a lot of racing games. This one's got a shooting element to it, so it's not just an out and out racing game, but it is still classed as a horizon chase. Some of the graphics at the side of the road are a bit basic, but they still move along fairly nicely. Choice of directions there. I believe if you take the wrong direction it ends up as being a dead end. But don't quote me on that, it's been a long while since I played this. I think I was just jammy that I went that way. You've got to avoid the mines in the road as well. And grab the fuel. And that's supposed to happen. It's just counting my bonus up. And there it is. Boulder smash. Continue pursuit. And yeah, that pretty much puts you on to the next level then. Now, this one is a budget game. This is Night Racer that came out in 1988 by Mastertronic. And also had the great fun, but as I discovered while recording this, really bloody hard invader load. I mean, look at the bullets coming down from that. But that is just a loader. So, we shall move on to the game. Now, I've always found this to be quite a clever game in the way they've done it, which is they've kind of got lines of trees down the side, but they've done it all in black with just a blue sky. So that way, it's not going to tax the poor old 64 out, and what you get is a really smooth, nice racing game. I suppose it would have been nicer if dashboard section wasn't quite so large, but I don't know, it's just something about this game I've always liked. And for a change, the car doesn't sound like a vacuum cleaner either, so that's always a bonus. I can't remember if this was $1.99 or $2.99, but for that sort of price, I mean, you can't knock that. It is a thoroughly enjoyable driving game. A few scores and then off we go to level 2. It is very samey, but if you just want a good racing game with no nonsense, it's a pretty good one to have. And like I said, for a budget game, can't go wrong. Well, up next we're going back to Outrun, but Outrun Europa, which has another outstanding soundtrack by Outrun Europe. And this came out in 1991, published by US Gold. Another one, I think the early 90s is when all the storytelling started happening in a lot of this stuff, so soon every agent in Europe will be on my trail. Very James Bond. So you start off on a bike in this one. And again, there's a lot going on the screen graphics wise. But it goes along at a fair old speed. Not too bad at all. For a bike game anyway. A lot of bike games I find twitchy. And this isn't really that much different. It is twitchy. But once you've had a few goes and you get used to it, it's good stuff. But this time you've got to outrun spies, you've got to outrun the police. So I suppose the name Outrun fits, really. That's not a good bit of outrunning. If the police stop you, they arrest you. And I believe in this game as well, Joe and Till did two channel music, so you could still have all the sound effects. And Harry got that much noise out of two channels. The man, he amazes me what that boy can do with a SID chip. I'll let it count down so we can see what happens at the end when you get arrested. That's a shame. Poor old Simeon. Right, now jumping back to 1984, this really is a classic game. I mean, if you haven't heard of this game and you're watching retro gaming channels, are you sure you're in the right place? This game I used to sit and play for hours with my mate Dean. We used to play this and play this and play this because it's just so much fun. And sometimes you can't beat a two-player experience. And unlike today's online gaming, you can't punch someone when they're beating you. Yeah, this is a great game. Again, I'm not going to show the pits in this, but this game's got a lot of tyre management. And it's just another Epic's driving game. They seem to do these so well. So on this one, it is unfortunately up to accelerate, but you use the fire button as like your turbo. It's good fun, but there's a lot of tyre management. As you watch as we get into this, you'll see lines appear on the tyres. I'm the one at the top. Yeah, like there's a little blue line on that tyre now, so that's the first stage of wear. And if you let them wear too much and you don't go into the pits, eventually you'll get a blowout, a bang sound, and you'll just fly off the side of the track. And you can sit there and watch while the either the computer player or one of your mates just romps to victory while you can sit there doing bugger all. But this is one of the best racing games I think on any system, because it's still got the speed and the tight controls that it would need to get away with it today. And if it weren't for games like this, I don't think we'd have games like Horizon Chase Turbo, Formula Retro Racing, and a lot of the stuff that's come out in the last few years. This is like the genesis of those type of games. Well, in the home anyway. So last on today's list, we have got Buggy Boy, which came out in 1987 from Elite Systems. And I mean, Elite did quite a lot of arcade conversions. They did 1942, Ghosts and Goblins, Commando. Some were better than others. But this, what they've chose to do here is pretty much, rather than try and mimic the arcade with the massive cars and that, they've just shrunk it down. And what they've managed to do is give all the feel of the arcade game Buggy Boy without having to worry about it slowing down or taxing the CPU of the 64. And again, it's smooth and it looks nice. And as we can see, as it's becoming the norm in these games, I'm not very good at this one either. But at least I'm honest about it. Yeah, it's supposed to go round them. But then you know that. So not only do I hit the post, then I decide to drive into the drink. So we'll have a go at one of the different tracks. Because it is a slightly different colour, but the gameplay remains pretty much the same. And it's good. It's a really good game, really fun to play. Nice and responsive, and nice and smooth. 2 to aim for, and I miss both of them. And get wet. Again. This game was thoroughly amazing when it came out. So there you go. That is 10 Horizon Chase style driving games on the Commodore 64 that aren't rubbish, that are smooth, that are fun to play, that for the most part, perhaps Talladega and Outrun aside, are pretty nice to look at. And I actually had good fun recording the videos for this, because there's a lot of these I hadn't played for years. Particularly Night Racer, Buggy Boy and Super Monaco Grand Prix. Super Cycle I'd played rather recently, what with it being on the C64 Mini and the C64 full size. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. So there you go. Thank you for watching the video. And until next time, laters.